So I am here with author Travis Peagler. He is the author of the poetry book Woman, the Story of She. How are you doing today?
Pretty good. How are you?
I'm excellent. Thank you so much for the time. You came to my attention. I was reading like Black News, and they did this wonderful piece about how you had wrote this captivating collection, which explores women's timeless beauty and profound significance. What was the reason for the writing a book like specifically about women?
Um, for me, being a former womanizer as a young man, early 20s, um, I always loved, the female gender, everything about a woman, about a lady, but not necessarily in mature ways when I was younger. So now, being older, mature, definitely wanted to give back from and just elaborate on many of my experiences that I've had, um, and just share stories of different women that I've came across throughout the years. I have three sisters, um, the youngest out of seven. So um, definitely just wanted to try to right some wrongs and just put a lot of poetry pieces out there, just going through the different things that that females go through. Um, as a whole, and a lot of things just put out there what females go through in relationships due to toxic masculinity, toxic relationships on both ends, but basically from a male's perspective point of view.
Man, it's really interesting. I hear you speak about toxic masculinity, and I feel like the internet's full of different polarizing issues regarding those topics. Because I watch a lot of videos in my feed, and I feel like a lot of them, it seems like they place the blame on women in relationships, but I see you saying that it's kind of like a reciprocal issue.
I would agree. I definitely would agree. Like I said, for me being a young man, I always worked hard, always worked a lot. This is in the early, the early 2000s, I would say. So basically, was hitting the club scene, tough, not really worried about too much. Um, but I always consider myself to be a nice guy, but I consider myself to be um, a male predator. Um, that was the agenda. Almost 4 days out of the week was seeing what I could pick up in the club. Um, Me and many other guys, and like I said, you got there's females that's out there too, that do the same thing. Again, I'm not really sure what's going on now, how the party scene is now. I haven't been out there quite some time. I've been married almost 19 years. It'll be later this month. It'll be 19 years. So, um,
Oh,
but yeah,
congratulations.
yeah. Thanks, I appreciate it. Yeah, so definitely things has definitely changed. But there's nothing new underneath the sun, and but so yeah, definitely just wanted to put it out there, just to celebrate women. And again, just coming from a unique perspective, coming from a man. So
Man, that's incredible. Do you feel like marriage set you on the path to change? Was the main thing that changed your perspective on women, or it was before that?
I would say before that, I had to work on myself first. Definitely jumping into marriage without changing the foundation of who you are. Um, Marriage is definitely going to save you. I mean, we've seen a lot of failed marriages, so we know that that doesn't work, being married just for the sake of being married. But for me, it was, just seeking God more, put my faith in God, and just changing holistically, basically just my whole entire lifestyle. And once I did that, then everything else changed around me. It's like all the pieces fell correctly around me that put me on that path and new trajectory in life. So
You talk about God, how much of an influence of God was in the book, you feel?
um, quite a bit. Naturally, for me, I try to put God in everything that I do. I always try to put God first. And as a writer, when I write, it just naturally comes out. Even though the story, the character might not, besides poetry, the book might not be based on faith or religion, but through all my characters, that connection with God always comes out somewhere throughout that storyline. But what that character is going through, they always just rely on their faith with God, or they try to seek God in some type of way.
And the poetry book's not like the only work that you're doing. I looked at your website and you have some really like amazing like children's books. They won actual NIEA Excellence Award, and it's called Jacob's Ghetto. Can you talk about that book a little bit?
Yeah, Jacob's Ghetto is definitely a powerful story, and I'm not just saying that because I authored it, but just because I mean it really is. Anytime as a writer, and other writers can relate, I believe is that when you read a piece or a story and you're reading it, it's almost like you're reading it for the first time, as if it's not your own. That really says a lot. So every time I read that story, obviously I've read it multiple times. It always hits home with me. So a lot of that characters pieces for me growing up on the east side Dayton, Ohio. Um, you know, I would say that food stamps raised me. Um, Government cheese helped save me. So I just remember, every month, mom getting books of food stamps, passing it out to us. We'd go to the corner store, to get candy. I remember the trucks coming through the neighborhood, passing out government cheese, free lunches, and things like that for the kids in our community. So I took Jacob's Ghetto a lot from myself growing up, and basically just put a spin on it to where it's like a lot of kids today think that you have to be an athlete to make it out of the ghetto. You can make it out with your mind, with your natural talents that God has given us all. Once you find out what it is, and it doesn't always have to come in the form of athletics.
What was it like, growing up on the east side of Dayton, Ohio? Because I was reading your bio and you were saying you grew up in like a somewhat multiracial neighborhood.
Right. I'm glad you asked that question. So for me, growing up, I had a big family, a lot of cousins. So most of my cousins lived on the west side of Dayton. That was more so, I should say, like the rough patches of Dayton. So where I grew up on the east side, it was mixed. You had a few Vietnamese families that lived where I was at, a good mix of white families, and then a good mix of biracial kids as well. So for me, I got a chance to see everything growing up. I had Asian friends, mixed friends, and obviously, black friends as well. So it just gave me an interesting perspective on life at an early age, for sure.
Definitely. What's next for you as an author?
What was that?
What's next for you as an author?
What's next for me is definitely working on a Christian piece. It's going to be the next thing I do, um, titled "The Seven Mistakes That Christians Make." Um, so definitely still just brainstorming on the outlines of that. But basically, just want to dive deep into um, what makes a Christian a Christian, and then just basically the seven things that mistakes that Christians make, as far as not getting too deep into it, but basically, I say that some of the pitfalls of Christianity that turns off people that might not be a Christian to be of a different faith. So definitely just want to take a deeper dive and look into that.
Man, that definitely sounds interesting. I'd love to have you back when you come out with that book, Travis Peagler. Thank you so much for taking the time. I really appreciate you.
Yeah, thank you, man. Again, thanks for reaching out. This is my first interview, so as I continue to do big things, I know it's going to be more to come. So I definitely appreciate you as well.
Definitely. Have a great day.
Thanks. You too.